This is the KhoodeelaarTV television channel broadcasting at 00:55 hours GMT. And this is the one that is being broadcast. Let me time. The time is mentioned as 00:50 hours GMT. And it's on the 5th of July 2023. The first comment that we shall be making is about Captain Tom. Now, the Captain Tom, according to the Sky News headline online I'm reading, Captain Tom's daughter ordered to tear down home spa as foundation in his name stops taking donations. Now let's go to a detailed item that is talking about that, and then we shall comment. So this is the one that one of the things that happened during the pandemic was the appearance of highly powerful brainwashing propaganda. And I don't think there was any propaganda being promoted by the tabloid press in Fleet Street during the pandemic into the second year than the one that was run by claiming that this 100-year-old man, Captain Tom, was walking in his own garden. He was frail and very weak, but he was walking to raise funds for the National Health Service, and the nurses who were doing splendid work helping people affected by the pandemic, COVID-19. Now, of course, in the context of the mental slavery, that is the biggest aspect of the mental slavery of the channel called Channel's Slave. I call Channel Slave Channel S. They invented a copycat man who pretended to be 100 years old as well, and who pretended to be doing the lap in his home, raising funds. So much so that that man has been now given an honor by the late Brenda. Now, I happen to know this man, and I am absolutely overcome with outrage at the man's audacity. And the audacity of these channel slave liars, propaganda wise, promoting this man's claim that he was 100 years old as well, and that he was doing what Captain Thomas More was doing. Now, there has been no publication of any accounts of how much money was raised by the channel slaves' collusion with this man, nor as to how much money was paid to who by and on what evidence. That will be something that I'll be discussing at length at another time. But this is now fresh news from Tuesday, the 4th of July 2023 in London. And the Sky News item online says, well, this is not just Sky, this one is on the BBC online, dated 4 hours ago. And it says, the daughter of Captain Sir Tom Moore has been told to knock down an unauthorized building used as a spa. And this was because planning application was rejected. Hannah Ingram and her husband used the Captain Tom Foundation name on the first plans for the building, with the later revised plans turned down. And the charity is also no longer taking donations or making payments due to an ongoing inquiry into its finances. Ms. Ingram Moore and the foundation have been contacted for comment. When a news outlet says that X or Y has been contacted for comment, that means that the comment hasn't come forward, which means that this individual, Hannah Ingram Moore, is not being forthcoming. Now, more than 2 years ago, when she was kind of celebrating the success and the ennoblement of Captain Thomas More as a knight, I raised the issue as to who was monitoring what she was doing. Now, it is the first time that this is now in the news, as far as I'm concerned. And it was inevitable that she would be found wanting, and that the whole idea of raising funds, whenever somebody like this Hannah Ingram Moore gets into the business of raising funds by over exploiting the very limited work that Captain Moore did, it has to be looked at with suspicion, which is what has happened now. Central Bedfordshire Council said the demolition order was subject to the planning inspectorate. The army veteran walked 100 laps of his Bedfordshire garden at the start of the first coronavirus lockdown in 2020, raising 33 million for NHS charities together. Captain Sir Tom, who was born in Keighley, West Yorkshire, died in 2021, aged 100. After he became an international figure, his family set up a charity in his name. In a statement on the Captain Tom Foundation website, the charity said its sole focus is to ensure that it cooperates fully with an ongoing statutory inquiry by the Charity Commission. As a result, the Captain Tom Foundation is not presently actively seeking any funding from donors. Accordingly, we also have taken the decision to close all payment channels while the statutory inquiry remains open. The Captain Tom Moore Foundation did not respond to the BBC's request for comment on the planning application but told The Sun the trustees were unaware and would not have authorized the plans had they known. All right. So it's the main burden of the allegations and the main abuse as alleged concerns Captain Moore's daughter and probably her husband or anyone else who has been or have been kind of involved with her. And this is inevitable. When I decided that the local Tower Hamlets Council was a corrupt council and that the GLC was a corrupt organization, both of which were operating their grant giving option, if you like, to corruptly enrich individuals that they wanted to benefit. Now, this actually went into all the other organizations that I have been fighting against. For example, the 1991, the 1991 thing called the Bethnal Green City Challenge that was set up as a part of the city challenges that Michael Heseltine engineered and allowed to be set up in various places with the description of these places being part of the deprived inner city areas, etc. When that happened, I knew that the Bethnal City Challenge was going to be a vehicle for corruption and criminality in Tower Hamlets. Now, this is now 32 years later. I am saying that the Bethnal Green City Challenge was allowed to become another vehicle of theft and corruption and criminality because of the Tower Hamlets Council's corruption. And that whoever was involved in the official records of Tower Hamlets Council on behalf of Tower Hamlets Council on this, what is called the external body, Bethnal Green City Challenge, did not do the honest service that they should have done. And this Bethnal City Challenge did not account, the Bethnal City Challenge did not account for the money that the UK central government gave it, nor did it make the decisions transparently, honestly, and truthfully. Now, 32 years later, there is no evidence. There is absolutely no evidence that the Bethnal City Challenge helped the local community in Tower Hamlets whatsoever. I'm saying this. Now, the only person that has been on the record, as far as I can see, in any extensive kind of way, and making allegations about the Bethnal Green City Challenge misuse of funds or refusal to properly account for itself, is somebody who has been compromised by his own interest, financial interest in the Bethnal City Challenge. And the man on the record, whether he has passed away or not, I don't know, I haven't checked it. But on the record is called Suhail ibn Aziz. Now, Suhail ibn Aziz is from Silot, but he didn't come to the United Kingdom as a standard migrant. Suhail ibn Aziz was a crafty, very crafty individual who positioned himself in the Commission for Racial Equality as a commissioner at the beginning of the Commission's foundation or as a director by misusing the presence, which is a coincidental presence, in the United Kingdom of the mainly Siloti backgrounded Bangladeshis. Silet, the role that Suhail ibn Aziz has played has been mainly based on his personal benefit. So, whatever claims he made in a court and tribunal claim against the Bethnal Green City Challenge has not been a claim representing the ordinary people of Tower Hamlets. Now, that is one side. That is, years after the Bethnal Green City Challenge was effectively disbanded, and at the time, while it was still active, a central government employee, what wrongly, in my view, insultingly, is called a civil servant. These individuals are mainly corrupt. To call them civil servant is a grotesque abuse of the English language. Anyway, there was this woman called Erika Zimmer. Erika Zimmer was a crook, and I had run ins with her because I could tell her 100 miles apart that she was a crook. And for somebody like her to be deployed in a corrupt place called Tower Hamlets was doomed to produce further aggravated corruption, which is what happened. So I shall be, of course, updating on all of those and Bethnal City Challenge, Erika Zima, and the Millennium Foundation corruption and crooks and the prosecution of Kumar Murshid, the councillor in Tower Hamlets, who was involved in the abuse of the Millennium Foundation, where he somehow managed to get away and avoid being prosecuted in full. But the others were prosecuted, and at least 5 of them were imprisoned. And I shall be updating on that in a due course. Going back to Captain Tom. Now, the news items say that the Captain Tom Foundation is being currently investigated as a registered charity by the Charity Commission of England. Now, my understanding of the behavior of the Charity Commission as an investigator is that it is itself completely dishonest, useless. So, what am I saying? What am I saying? I am saying that the so called voluntary sector investigative agencies are themselves corrupt, dishonest, and are abused by the individuals who are given positions in them. So I shall be going into the details of the Charity Commission another time. This is just in passing. And that actually takes us back to the Metropolitan Police being found guilty of discriminating racistly against a elderly black man who was punched by a metropolitan policeman. And when this elderly black person complained to the so-called independent police complaints outlet, that outlet, surprise, surprise, found that there was no real substance to his claim, and they told him to get lost. So, this is the state of the independent organization. I mean, how can this be independent? It's part of the collusion. Mass police in the London Metropolitan Police, none of these criminals has been really held to account contextually. The fact that Wayne Cousins, who kidnapped, raped, tortured, and mutilated the body of the innocent woman Sarah Everard, the fact that this criminal was prosecuted is nothing to do with the Metropolitan Police. It was such an overwhelming series of criminality that if Wayne Cousins, hadn't been actually prosecuted, there really would have been serious disorder in the streets of the United Kingdom. In any case, the London Metropolitan Police is not fit for purpose. As Louise Casey has said, in March 2023, Louise Casey has said that the London Metropolitan Police no longer has the permission of the people of London to police them. This is the most significant statement. I would say it is the most significant statement in all of the 367 pages of Louise Casey's report. We go back to looking at some of the things that have been happening about the victim of French anti Muslim racism and French anti Muslim racists who murdered in cold blood the boy, 17-year-old boy, Nahel Merzouk. Now, Nahel Merzouk's mother's mother, his maternal grandmother, was propped up by the French media, French president entourage during the weekend. And she was manipulated into saying that she was tired and frustrated, and would the people demonstrating in protest against Nahel's racist murder, would they please stop? Now, that is a most emotional kind of weapon used by Macron. And Macron, of course, did that in desperation because, in comparison with the esteem that the ordinary people protesting for Nahel would hold this old woman, I mean, the opposite is the case when it comes to Macron. Macron is seen as the evil criminal, racist murderer. So that's why Macron manipulated this elderly woman and got her permission to put herself in the media saying that what I have just quoted, she has said reportedly. She said they shot Nahel and my daughter is lost, which is too true. The point is that despite his huge kind of line of administrative budget and billion kind of dollars equivalent of the money that the French state is able to spend in policing, in repression, all of that came to nothing as compared to the simple statement they managed to extract from Nahel's grandmother. And obviously, she has been treated with respect by the protesters as opposed to Macron because the protesters have not heeded what Macron has been saying. And the protesters should not be heeding what Macron has been saying or has had to say. Now, as I was saying in the edition 2 days ago, even despite the limitations and weaknesses and shortcomings of Macron when it comes to racism, in the United Kingdom there is nothing. The United Kingdom is completely empty. The so-called left in the United Kingdom is left out of the media when it comes to a material like the systematic racism of the London Metropolitan Police, the systematic racism by the so-called independent complaints outlet that is supposed to investigate the complaints against the police, and so on. So we shall be talking about all of these in due course in later editions during the day today. This is early morning, really too early. 1:24 hours GMT on Wednesday, the 5th of July 2023. And I'll come to the end of this one at just under half an hour. As I said, we shall be continuing in the later editions.